We're here on a sunny Friday up on Angeles Crest Highway, and behind me is the all-new 2022 Porsche Taycan GTS Sport Turismo. GTS has a very storied history with the brand, starting in the mid-1900s, all the way up to now. GTS exists over everything. It's designed to give you the better driving dynamics, a good mix of power with handling, and it's kind of weird to say this when referring to Porsche, but also value. They tend to give you a lot of those extra features that you like without charging an arm and a leg for it. So this Taycan here has a dual motor setup, and it should be the fun sweet spot. Is it? We're gonna drive it and find out. Today, we're going to talk about what makes a Porsche Taycan GTS a GTS, and also what makes a Sport Turismo a Sport Turismo. We'll also show you the performance difference between a GTS and the equally priced Tesla Model S Plaid. Before we hit the road though, let's talk about charging. The Porsche Taycan range is capable of charging at up to 270 kilowatts. That is a peak performance number and something Porsche is proud of, but also understands it's not the be-all, end-all metric. The amount of electricity delivered over time is a much more realistic comparison. As a demonstration of its fast charging capability, we arrived at an Electrify America station with 11% battery and plugged in. We witnessed a peak charging rate during our session at 245 kilowatts, with a lot of time spent at 195 kilowatts. But the big deal is that we put 32 kilowatts of energy into the battery pack in 8 minutes and 44 seconds. That's around 100 miles of extra driving range in the Taycan if you had to charge and run. Doing some quick math, at least for this one charging session, we were averaging 220 kilowatts, but that's just one data point. Those charging stats are true of any Taycan you can buy, but let's talk about the specific model we're evaluating today. The Sport Turismo is the wagon version of the Taycan, and it's also the more practical version. With the rear seats folded, the Sport Turismo has 41.3 cubic feet of cargo space compared to the sedan's 12.9 cubic feet. It's also easier to see out of, and the straight roof preserves rear headroom better than the swooping roofline of the sedan. If you're still trying to choose, here's a look at how the GTS performs versus the trims above and below it. The GTS makes, with the boost function, 590 horsepower. Moving up the line to a turbo model ups the horsepower to 670, while the one step down 4S makes 522 horsepower. The GTS has 626 pound-feet of torque. That torque number matches the step-up turbo model. The lower trim 4S only gets 472 pound-feet. The GTS shares a front motor with the 4S and a rear motor with the turbo, which is why they have the same torque ratings. But enough Porsche on Porsche action. How is its straight-line speed against the internet sensation Tesla Model S Plaid? The Taycan GTS can hit 60 miles an hour in 3.5 seconds and has a top speed of 155 miles per hour. Tesla claims a 1.99 second 0 to 60 time and a top speed of 200 miles per hour, when equipped, of course, with proper tires and on a prepped surface. But there's more to straight-line performance in the Taycan GTS, so let's hit the road and see why. Alright, so I've spent most of the day driving the new Taycan Sport Turismo GTS here in Los Angeles, up through Angeles Crest, where it's snowing because it's 32 degrees up there, and a little bit of everything in between. So, driving impressions. How is this car? Well, coming into this program, I didn't want to just drink the Kool-Aid, right? Everybody, like if you read any reviews of basically any Porsche, maybe outside of the Macan, like people just adore it. And you would almost think that Porsche puts money in the glove box for them to say that to you. But I looked in the glove box earlier, there's no money in it. So, but it's real easy to fall in love with a car like this. So the Sport Turismo, just to give a little bit more context, the Sport Turismo is the wagon version of the Taycan sedan. Now, in other trims, in the Turbo S, the 4S, the Base, those are all cross Turismos, which means they're actually lifted about an inch, I believe. Have some plastic cladding on them. They're supposed to be a more rugged version of the car. In GTS, guys, you cannot get the cross Turismo. You are getting the Sport Turismo. Complicated? A bit. But what that means is you have the same ride height as you do on the sedan. You have standard air suspension, which is tuned specifically for this version of the car, which includes a vehicle lift, so that if you're going through an area that, maybe there's extra chuck holes, you're trying to get into a steep driveway, press the button on the instrument cluster and boom, up goes the car. What's cool is it'll GPS that, so it'll remember it, so that next time you're at that location, it can be just woo, right? So fantastic. It comes with summer performance tires. Even though they are technically low rolling resistance, these suckers grip. They grip better than better than any all-season I've driven, and definitely one of the better ends of performance tires. So the Cross Turismo, what you gain over the sedan is you get the shooting brake wagon sort of appearance. So you get a lot more usable space in the back. For you open the rear hatch, you can fit a full bicycle in there without removing the front wheel, which is a big deal. Or you could move your apartment. You could load several bikes in this car. Going on a ski holiday is easy peasy. Like there's virtually no drawbacks. Like in a one-car household, if you could only have one car, and you have the means, of course, it's the one to get. If you like more performance, like if you want a little bit better steering, if you want a little bit stiffer suspension, if you want something just that feels a little bit more sporty, don't get the Sport Turismo, but actually just go for the sedan. They are tuned a bit differently, with the sedan being the sportier of the two, where Porsche sort of describes this as maybe the Grand Tourer of the lineup. Unless you're driving at 8, 9, or 10 tenths, though, I don't think you're going to be able to tell a difference. And the advantages of the Sport Turismo the rest of the time is better visibility, again, more space, and some people just like the look of this wagon. Like, it gets attention. Yes, it's a Porsche, but some Porsches can be fairly mundane. Maybe not mundane, but they fly under the radar. And this is in carmine red, which is, of course, a fantastic color. But, people notice this. People pull up to you in traffic, and they wave, and they do all sorts of things that you don't normally get even on a higher-end sports car, because it's just, you see, we're in Los Angeles. You see them everywhere. Like Porsches are the, Toyota Camry of Los Angeles. So this car is pretty quick, 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. I believe them. Top speed of 155. I believe them. This car uses the rear motor from the Taycan Turbo. So that's why it makes the same torque rating as the Taycan Turbo, which I believe is 675. And this is rated with the overboost function at 590 horsepower. So middle of the pack in terms of horsepower. Porsche has a really interesting way of explaining why they didn't put more power in this car. The cynic would argue, oh, well, it's because they don't want to take sales away from Turbo or Turbo S. And I think there's a little bit of truth there. But as you push more electricity through a motor, through an electric motor, the harder you work that electric motor, the hotter it gets. So with the GTS being the driver's focused, almost track focused, though this doesn't feel quite full-on track car, but you can do it. Because of that, they're actually worried about the thermal management. So keeping the power down, keeping the energy running through that rear motor down a bit will help longevity, longer thermal management. So that's they're officially on the record. Take it or leave it. There's truth in it. I'm sure there's truth in it. But they're also trying to fill out a wide variety of cars and buyers and desires and needs. GTS only comes in all-wheel drive, and it's right around 4,900-ish pounds. So it's a chunky boy, but it hides its weight really well. So there's other EVs out there that sort of have that 3.5 to 4 second performance range. Some are heavy; they don't hide that weight particularly well. Porsche's done an excellent job at tuning this to be a sports car. Yes, a 911's lighter. Yes, it probably handles better. Yes. But not only is this one of the best electric cars I've driven, but it's just a really solid car. Now, with a starting price of $133,000-ish for the Sport Turismo, yeah, it better be, right? Like, it better be a good car. But it is. It's fantastic. Several different drive modes. In the normal mode, the suspension's super soft. We have the 18-way adjustable sports seats in this car, so it's super easy to find a comfortable seating arrangement. Driving position is Porsche spot on. I mean, everything you hear is true. The GTS interior package, which is what this has Alcantara steering wheel, seats. It's God's fabric is all over this car, which is great. It looks good. And this one has what looks like a 5-seat rear configuration. I know in the sedan you can opt for either 4 or 5 seats. So most people are going to want the 5 seats because there's that emergency jump seat just in case. Another reason to go with the Sport Turismo over the sedan is you're going to have rear headroom, more rear headroom because the roof's flatter. So just more places to put stuff. This particular car has a feature that will be coming to the US specs, which is this intelligent panoramic roof. All US spec cars will have a panoramic glass sunroof. It doesn't open, but there is a electrochromatic sort of shade that you can choose through the infotainment system that will fully darken it or fully expose it. And then there's a neat pattern in it that you can do for if you want to let some light in, but maybe not a lot. Instrument cluster is easy to read. I find the infotainment system great. We're in a European spec car, so nothing works on the infotainment outside of like CarPlay. And what I mean by that is the navigation system doesn't work, which means InnoDrive doesn't work because it relies on navigation data. The radio doesn't pick up any local radio stations. There's no SiriusXM or whatever. But that's really not the point because the US spec cars, of course, will have all that functionality. But the major interior complaints that I have, and they're very few, is I'm not completely used to this touchscreen here in the center for controlling functions. It's easy enough to pick up on, but it's weird that some of the functions, if you hit the button down here for like that shade, for example, it doesn't show up right here to adjust it. It shows up on the screen in front. So where it decides to have the menu button open something and where the menu actually opens is a little bit confusing. Also, this is a really nitpick, but there's volume control on the steering wheel, but there's no track forward or track back on for like listening to audio. So there's a diamond button up here. It's configurable. You could set it to do that. Fine, great. Kind of wish there was just a button to do it. But other than that, I mean, this car is like, it's fantastic. It's plenty quick. I mean, you get used to the quickness, but this car at 100 miles an hour is quieter than even some other EVs at 60 miles an hour. It just eats the miles. It eats the highway miles. It's super efficient. Like, I know that Porsche rates the car at one number, but all of our colleagues have all been exceeding that number. And the beauty is that if you find an Electrify America charging station that'll do 350 kilowatts, this car can charge up to 270 kilowatts. Average over time is more important than peak, but I did see a peak of 245 on a reasonably warm battery pack at about 15% state of charge. So it dropped off once I hit like 15% down to like 197. But that is still better than nearly every other EV that I've driven. So Model 3 will briefly hit 170 on the single motor if you get in the right state of charge and find the right station. The dual motors will do up to 250, but again, that doesn't peak for long. What's nice about this Volkswagen Group product, e-tron's the same way, is that it's got a real kind of meteor charge curve, so it'll stay higher up for longer. So this, I would argue that this is a very good road trip machine. And you would think, oh, the Porsche, it'd be too harsh, too sporty, too rough. And it does err on the side of sportiness, for sure. But in normal mode, just puts it along here in traffic. It's comfortable. It's nice. The sound's isolated well. There's not that much tire noise. Gosh, I'm a really big fan of this car, and I personally right now can't afford one, but 1 in 3 buyers is new to Porsche when they go buy Taycan, and that's not by accident. Taycan is bringing in a younger buyer, it is bringing in a more affluent buyer, it's bringing in a tech-friendly and a tech-savvy buyer. And a lot of these buyers that are coming to Taycan have had an EV before, so Porsche's in a really interesting situation where they don't have to necessarily educate their customers on EVs. Yeah, of course, there's some new ones, but the people coming to them kind of already have an idea of what's going on. And what's also interesting that was discussed this morning during breakfast was the higher-end Taycans, the Turbo S, those sat alongside a GT3 or a GT3 RS in an owner's garage. People are coming to base Taycan into 4S as their first Porsche, but as their only Porsche. So it's not sitting next to another car. They're not necessarily a Porsche collector. They're just looking for a premium, excellent driving, tech-savvy EV experience, and this delivers. Infotainment-wise, again, I was talking a little bit earlier, supports everything wireless Apple CarPlay. I think it's wired Android Auto, and I'm not sure if it does wireless there, but wireless CarPlay, wired CarPlay, satellite radio, all that sorts of stuff. Level 2 ADAS, they're called 2.5, but basically level 2 ADAS with the 8.0 drive is an option. Lane keep assist is standard. It has all of this sort of tech stuff that you want, all the safety stuff. I tend to like Polestar's infotainment a little bit better, but they're not doing something quite at this premium level. And even like a Polestar 2, which again caps out at about 70, so about half this price, is probably almost as quick to 60, but it doesn't ride quite as nice, even with the Öhlins dampers set on their comfort setting. This is a bit quieter. This is just a little bit more isolated, as it should be, because it's twice the price. But man, if you want basically it comes down to this: if you want an electric car and you want a premium experience, this is it. Buy it. That's just it. Buy it. Not right now, because it's not on sale until spring of next year. And if you get in line now, it may be later than that before you get one. The semiconductor shortage is still wreaking havoc on the industry. But no, this car's where it's at. Sport Turismo, sedan, whatever. You'll love it. It'll be a good everyday car if you want it to be. It'll bomb through a back road like nobody's business. It'll cruise at Autobahn speeds for as long as the battery has juice. And you can haul a chest of drawers in the back. So it's solid. Love it. Sign me up.
The lovable Porsche Taycan GTS Sport Turismo starts at $134,650 with delivery and is a mere $1,900 more than the sedan for way more practicality. It's also a bit of a value because it includes air suspension and Porsche's Sport Chrono package as standard.
I hope you can tell from this video that I'm super excited about this car and thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm going to start digging underneath my couch cushions at home to try to find the starting price. When this car does go on sale next year, the spring of 2022, if you're in the market, man, you should go check it out. And the Sport Turismo, what's fantastic about it is it drives a little bit more sedate. It's more of a cruiser than the sedan. However, I don't know too many cars that you can get great fuel efficiency on it, because this is an electric, drive as quick as you can, and also carry a 70-inch plasma TV. So, I mean, maybe not that big, but this is a fantastic car, and it was a great time driving it. So if you get an opportunity to get behind the wheel of one, you definitely should. And otherwise, call your dealer, because these are going to sell quickly.
If you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single upload. For more information on electric cars, including some on the more affordable side of things, check out evpulse.com.